China can put 5,000 drones in the air and synchronize them into the shape of a dragon breathing fire and then land them all again. Do you think they could make 100,000 drones to come and search you out using facial recognition, hunt you down and explode in your face?
I'm funding your child to the tune of £3 a meal for them to go and have some curly cornered piece of toast at school, and you're going to Costa or wherever and sitting having a latte with your friends, and I'm paying for that. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the T Word. My name is Justine Thomas.
And my name's Gareth Thomas.
Gareth Thomas is back. How are you doing, Gareth? How is your week going so far?
It's going terrible. I'm getting that stressed out by what I'm seeing on the news, that I'm breaking out in eczema and I look terrible, but I'm going to fight on, because I'm a trooper.
Who are you going to fight? Are you going to go and fight Rachel Reeves on Wednesday?
Well, yes, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. So obviously Rachel Reeves is doing her budget on Wednesday, isn't she? I've heard a few things about what she might be planning on doing. Do you think it's going to be the end of Rachel Reeves by the end of this week?
I mean, look, I think by the time anybody watches this, if anybody ever gets to this, I'll be amazed, because the news is just going to be absolutely awash with stories and opinions. I can't see how she can survive much beyond Christmas. Keir Starmer can't survive beyond May anyway because of those local elections. People are circling, aren't they? We could come on to that later. But I mean, in terms of the economy, is she actually making the economy better? What would be the situation where the Chancellor would fall? I would imagine there are two scenarios. Well, there are two that I can think of. The first one is that something so catastrophic happens with the markets and doesn't recover. So you made a comment in an earlier episode we did when Rachel Reeves was crying, and you said it was something like $500 million a tear because the market dropped off, but then it came back. So let's say something so catastrophic immediately happens within the markets and that doesn't recover. And the other thing would be that for whatever reason, Keir Starmer is brought down and she will go with him because, of course, they're in lockstep, aren't they? You wouldn't usually stay in post as the Chancellor if the Prime Minister goes. But I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. All I know is that there's zero confidence from businesses, and there hasn't been for many, many months. People don't want to make buying decisions. Everybody's feeling like, well, I think people feel like they're being gaslit, to be honest, because you keep hearing all these, are they leaks? Are they briefings? I think they're a combination of both, actually. But it's very, very immature. It shows a complete lack of political ability to be making all of these leaks, to be having all these briefings, because ultimately it's impacting in people's confidence in the economy, isn't it?
Well, obviously they're leaking all these potential. I think they leak a lot of it so that it looks worse than it's going to be, and then they can kind of row back on it a bit, and it makes it look better. There's rumours that she's going to get rid of the 2-child benefit cap, which to me I don't. They're running out of money. They're borrowing more money than they've ever borrowed before. I think the national debt is at $2 trillion. The interest on the money that we owe, I think, is more than the defence budget now. They're literally spending us into oblivion. And then she says things like, "Oh, well, we're going to get rid of the 2-child benefit cap." I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand the logic in it. If everyone knows that this country is financially on its arse, so why would you then commit to spending more money? And
I think she's going to freeze the income tax. She's going to freeze the income tax thresholds.
Yeah, so they say, yeah.
Yeah, that will bring 9 million people more, I think, into different tax thresholds. So there's money to be made there. But I mean, in terms of spending, yes, she's going to cut the 2-child benefit cap. She's also going to put about 4% on pensions. But all of these things, who's supposed to pay for all of this? Because, we talk about, or Labour talks about taxing tax the rich more. But look at Lakshmi Mittal, who announced earlier this week that he's now going to be tax based in Switzerland, spend most of his life in Dubai. And apparently 10,800 millionaires have left the country in the last year. But people on the left don't seem to be able to see the correlation between those people who leave and the fact that there's less money. And many of those people do pay income tax. Wealthy people seem to have a way of minimizing the amount of tax that they pay, but often their tax receipts or their tax payments come in the form of dividends and those sorts of things. But my understanding is that the top 1% of earners give us 30% of the income tax revenue. That's income tax revenue.
They pay the lion's share, yes.
Yeah, not total tax take.
So what happens when you drive them all away? What happens when you drive them all away?
Well, then what happens is the people who are more on the middle incomes or the higher middle incomes, then you're actually forcing the burden onto them, aren't you? So you've just
it's a death spiral, isn't it? At the end of the day, you tax the wealthiest more, the people who can afford to leave, and you actually end up with less tax. And that's what they say. A government can't tax itself out of out of budget woes, out of money problems. And the main thing here is, why don't you just stop spending money? Why don't you just stop, peeing the money up the wall? I mean, when you look at the asylum bill, the fact that she wants to scrap the 2-child benefit cap, the fact that they can't even make changes to PIP because their own backbenchers, defied them and won't vote for any reforms. They can't even get any reforms through parliamentary procedure, can you? So they can't stop spending. They're addicted to spending. They're addicted to lending money. And I think at this point, they probably know that they are the most unpopular chancellor and prime minister of all time, I think, since records began. And basically, they know that they're not going to be in the job for much longer. And they know that Labour is not going to be in power in the next general election. So it's quite dangerous, because I just think they've thought, sod it. Let's just go mental. Let's just tax everyone, spend what we want, lend as much as we want, and it'll be like when Labour was last in power, wasn't it? When they left that note on I can't remember who it was now, but they left a note on the desk saying no money left, and it literally is just the same history repeating itself.
Yeah, I don't know if they do believe that they won't be in power. I mean, I
Surely
don't know. I've never served in a government, but it wouldn't surprise me if they actually.
Have you ever looked at Keir Starmer's Twitter? Have you actually looked? Do you think he looks at his own Twitter? I mean, we'll get onto that little thing he posted to his son the other day as well. We could talk. I forgot about that. We could talk about that. That little open letter to his son, like the cringiest. I mean, if he reads the comment section, he's either got thicker skin than a rhinoceros, or he's just completely, I don't know, devoid of any kind of sense of reality. He's literally hated. Like, you'd never see one positive comment on his social media, in the paper. Like, he must know how hated he is.
He can't. I don't think he looks at anything, but you must think, if you were his kids, even if your dad had said, never look at social media, son, daughter. I mean, I think his kids are sort of teenagers, aren't they? So surely they would look. I mean, surely somebody in their friendship group will go into school one day and go, oh, are you all right? Is everything okay? Because I'm sure they've got lots of very caring friends, and I'm sure their friends are probably quite worried about their mental health. The sorts of things that are written about him, they are pretty vile and pretty awful. But as you say, I mean, he is just I think he's the least popular prime minister on record.
Didn't you say there was like 1,000 PR people employed in Westminster by the government? Like literally 1,000 PRs.
I don't know.
PR people. Well, I'm sure it was you. I can't remember. I mean, there's that many people around him that must be doing his social media, that are advising him. And I mean, I don't know who advises him
Well,
or
look,
who
I
writes his
tell you,
speeches, but
well, this is how bad the comms team is. So I don't know if you saw a video from the Department of Education. It came out actually about a month ago, and I only saw it the other day. And in the Department of Education video, they're talking about breakfast clubs. And it's a bit like that silly digital ID, the patronising one that Darren Jones did. And this video, there's a piece of text across the whole video that says, "What would you do with an extra 30 minutes a day?" And it's basically
oh,
they've
I've
gone
seen
out.
it.
I mean, it's absolutely shocking. One mother said it's really good having the breakfast clubs because sometimes you don't remember to feed your children. I mean, what sort of parent doesn't remember to feed their own children? I mean, quite frankly, you need social services, not a breakfast club.
Yeah, well, this is just another example of just outright ridiculous spending. It's as though they're thinking of ridiculous ways to spend money, and they just go for it. It's like, what is the most ridiculous? It's like Brewster's Millions. Have you ever seen Brewster's Millions? You
Yes.
must spend this money. I don't care how you spend it, but you must spend it. But it makes me think. I mean, I know I remember back. You're slightly older than me, but I remember back when you had your kids, and I believe you were working as well, and I think you were doing a law degree at the same time. I mean, did you need someone to make your children breakfast in the morning, or did you do it yourself?
Well, I probably did it on the hoof, but I mean, I didn't take them to a breakfast club. I mean, you'll have to ask them, but I think they're always fairly well fed. I mean, I was lucky; I did have, help. Dad helped me out a lot when I was doing my degree, but still, I don't think I forgot to sort of feed them on a regular basis. And then there was a
Just now and
lady.
again.
Just now and again. And then there was a lady who said, "Oh, yeah, I'll be able to go and have coffee with the other mums." So hang on a minute. I'm funding your child to the tune of £3 a meal or whatever it is for them to go and have some curly cornered piece of toast at school. And you're saving the money and you're going to Costa or wherever and sitting having a latte with your friends. And I'm paying for that. Coming back to comms, I think whoever did this video, if they are representative of the comms team in number 10, well, it's really not surprising, is it, that Keir Starmer is the singularly most unpopular prime minister in history?
Yeah, exactly, because they've just got no sense of what's going on outside their bubble. I mean, my issue with the Breakfast Club is, or the breakfast clubs, is that initially they've give a budget of something like 80 million. I mean, if you think back to when HS2 was announced, I think the overall budget, correct me if I'm wrong, the first phase of it was something like £100 million, like 10 years ago. And now they're spending £80 million on breakfast clubs. So each school that enrolls in a breakfast club gets £1,000 grant, £25 a day in admin and to pay people wages or whatever, and £1 per pupil that attends.
Hang
So
on, hang on, hang on, hang on. Run that by me again. So the breakfast club itself.
So so the school, that, bearing in
Mm,
mind that this is for primary schools, okay, and
hmm
they're going to try and roll it out next year in April to 2,000 primary schools. So each primary school gets £1,000 grant to buy materials and preparation for the breakfast club. So that's like £2 million there and then, yeah. Then each primary school
What?
gets
Sorry,
25.
what do they need £1,000 for to open up a breakfast club? You
God
only need
knows.
a
Well, I don't. They already
saucepan.
make lunch. They already make lunch. So they get oh yeah, for software and booking facilities. Yeah. Then I know it's
Use
crazy.
Google Calendar. It's free.
Now listen, they get £25 a day for admin. Now that's regardless of whether there was a paid childcare service, preschool childcare service there anyway. So they get another £25 a day. Now times that by 2,000, that's 50 grand a day, I think, something like that. And they get £1 per pupil. By the way, they get the £25 regardless of how many pupils turn up. So they also get a
Well, hang
pound
on.
per
Is the
pupil.
pound for the food or is the
The
pound?
pounds for the food. Now, I went because I'm a bit sad. I went on the Asda website and I tried to work out what the average size and cost of a box of cereal is. So if you go from the lowest, the kind of black and white simple brands all the way up to like the Kellogg's cornflakes, An
Yes.
average box of cereal, if I'm being generous, is about £2 for between 500 grams and 750 grams. Now, a child's portion, I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit geeky here, but a child's portion of cereal is 30 grams.
30
So
grams,
one
yeah.
box of cereal is going to last you the best part of 2 weeks. Add to that a slice of toast. Okay. You're looking, bare minimum, you're looking at 15p a day to feed your child breakfast. Yeah. That's cereal and toast. Top
Well, we've
end,
got to
you're
give
looking at
them some
30 pence.
milk. What about milk?
You need some milk. No, but what I'm saying is, so why? So again, it's just another example of waste. Why are the government giving £1 per child to give them a bowl of Weetabix, which costs 10p a portion? It doesn't. It's just another example of how we waste money. Now, on top of that, if you were paying for like an hour or even an hour and a half of childcare preschool, you now don't have to pay for that half an hour that's provided by the Breakfast Club. So parents, I mean, you could say that's a good thing, but what I'm saying is it's just more money that doesn't go into the school budget, which is then taken out of other things. So what I'm saying, all in all, we're probably paying 70% more per child to feed them than if you did it at home. When you also say what a parent's going to do with the free time, well, surely you've still got to get up and get your children ready for school. So in order to get the kid there for breakfast, you've got to get the kid up slightly earlier than you would have in order to feed the kid yourself. So it doesn't make any sense. Let's say the average walk to school is 20 minutes. Well, if I needed to feed Timmy at 7:30 in my own house for 30p, or if I was being really luxurious, top brands, 35p, at the absolute extreme. If I had to get Timmy fed at 7:30 in the morning, that means he'd have to be up at maybe 7, 7:15. But if I need to get Timmy to school half an hour earlier, that means I need to leave the house quarter of an hour earlier to get him to the school for them to do something I could have done 15 minutes ago. So it don't make any
Well, yeah,
sense.
but no, well, hang on, no. I think your arguments are slightly flawed there because the time, the time it would take you to get Timmy to school, you're just doing it sooner.
The issue is the whole thing around this Breakfast Club is it's designed to get rid of child poverty, child hunger. But what it does is it puts a sticking plaster over the symptom of the problem rather than the problem itself, which is parents in this day and age just can't feed their children or just are unable to feed their children. So the state feels like it has to jump in now and not only provide for children who they think may be I can't remember what they call it now, food poverty. Food poverty. You can make a full pan of stew for about £3. I mean, no one I mean, don't we also give like child benefits to parents so that they can feed their children as well? Do we not actually? We're not actually paying twice. We're giving the child benefits to the parents so they can go and have Costa while we pay the child to have breakfast at the expense of the taxpayer again. So it just feeds into what I'm saying is they don't seem to think things through. And by the way, it's projected that this Breakfast Club by 2028 is going to be costing the taxpayer around £300 million. That's nearly a third of £1 billion a year. And then what happens when they're not at school? These poor neglected children that are suffering from, what happens in the 6 weeks
Well,
holidays?
I'm just looking now. So I've found
It makes
the
no sense. None of it makes sense.
I've found the document from the Department of Education that was published on the 19th of November.
I've read it. I've sat and read it today.
So it says the move offers immediate help to working parents juggling childcare costs by saving them up to 450 quid and giving back up to 95 hours of time. What is this all about? Why are we funding
It's just guff.
450 quid a year? Is
It's
that how much it
gobbledygook.
costs to feed a child? That's rubbish. Utter
It's
rubbish.
gobbledygook.
How many weeks off do kids in state schools get a year? Because I'm guessing that private sector is not going to be using
10 to 14, at least 10 weeks, maybe 14. 2 at Easter, 2 at Christmas, 6 weeks. What's that? That's 10. Another week off in May, bank holidays. Yeah, you're looking at 13 weeks a year.
So we've got 40 weeks times 5. So we've got 200 days. And they're saying it's going to save parents up to £450. So what they're actually saying is it's saving up to £2.50 per day per child for breakfast. What parent spends £2? Meghan Markle probably spends £2.50 a day on her child's breakfast because she probably puts some floured sprinkles on it. But nobody who is using this club is already spending £2.50 a day on breakfast for their children. And the interesting thing about this is what parents said. The evidence that was gathered through the test and learn phase said that more than 1 in 3 parents found it difficult to give their child a healthy breakfast because they said fussy eating and time were the main barriers. So are you trying to tell me then that toast at home doesn't work, but that toast, I mean, what are these kids having at the breakfast club? Are they having kinds of confit of mango sprinkled with avocado or
And
something?
they're
I've
not
got no
having
idea.
no, they're not having like full English. You're only allowed apparently on the document. It says they're only allowed to serve sausage or bacon once a week. So the rest of the time they've either got to have cereal or fruit, and that's it, or toast. And let me ask another
Well, you
question.
can just give that to children at home. They either like
Well,
it or they don't.
that's my
I know
point. For
exactly what's going to
30p.
happen. And exactly what's going to happen. All of the kids who are fussy eaters who don't want the crap that their parents are trying to give them, when they get the crap forced down them at school, they're not going to want to eat it. So basically, I will be very, very interested to see how much scrap there is, how much is going into the waste bin, because I bet you more than half of it will end up in the bin.
And what's the CO2? What's the CO2 calculation for that, Labour, Keir Starmer? What's the CO2 calculation? What about all the
Well,
food waste?
I think at the end of the day, we need to be supporting parents and children in their own homes. You know, if we've got people who are so destitute of time and that their children are such terrible fussy eaters, then maybe we need to be thinking about how we can support parents to get a bit more time or with their childcare arrangements. And similarly, if children are fussy eaters, how we can encourage parents to basically say, well, either eat that, like what we did. I mean, eat
You'll eat
that or
out if you're
go
hungry
hungry.
enough.
Simple as
You'll eat
that,
anything if you're hungry enough. You'll eat a scabby horse if you're hungry enough. But let me ask
Exactly.
you this though: what about after school? So they care so much about kids having a breakfast. Well, if the parents are so useless that they can't feed their kids breakfast, how are they feeding them their tea
Well, if
in the
fussy
evening?
eating and
Where does
time
it
is the
stop?
issue, yeah, you're right. What difference does it make? And what about on Saturdays or Sundays? Are we saying that on Saturdays and Sundays the kids don't matter? I mean, I guess schools are the natural delivery point for this sort of service. But look, I think, the fundamental principle of if something has been shown that children are going to school hungry and they are going to school hungry because their parents don't have any money to feed them, well, then there has to be a wider societal concern there, doesn't there, about why parents don't have enough money to feed their children. So, yes, we could talk about the economy, we could talk about all of those things. But ultimately, it seems to me, looking at this document from the Department of Education, that the biggest factor for people is not having enough time and that their children are fussy eaters. Well, why, as a taxpayer, am I funding that?
Yeah, yeah, well, exactly, and that is the fundamental difference between the sticking plaster and addressing the root cause of the
Well,
problem.
and the other thing is, if you want to help parents who are working, and that your sticking plaster comment is an interesting one, really, because not every parent has to be at work for 9 o'clock in the morning. There are parents who work night shift. There's parents who work at the weekends, and actually, one thing that I believe that we should put more money into is good childcare provision. Let's bring down the cost of private provision. We're already providing free nursery places for children, and parents get a certain amount of hours per week, dependent on the age of the child. But actually, where's the flexibility in nursery places? And similarly, in terms of private childcare provision, I would imagine that is becoming um, more difficult to get hold of, because I think, you've also got the issues with, private nursery provision. Well, what's happened? What has the government done? The government is just hammering all small businesses. You can't tell me that the nursery school sector or the childcare sector has got to be one of the worst hit in terms of raising business national insurance. They're probably like hospitality in that respect, in that it's very onerous in terms of all of the red tape and regulations that are on top of childcare providers. But then similarly, they've got this extra tax in terms of national insurance. So the whole thing is wrong. It's all wrong. I think you're right. I think it's just a sticking plaster. And quite frankly, if a child's a fussy eater, I don't see how sending them out of the house half an hour earlier to a different place to eat the same thing is going to make them less of a fussy eater.
Well, in terms of childcare, I think they'll all probably be looked after by cyborgs in the near future, which was the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. So AI. So we touched on this the other day in the car, but you sent me an interesting piece of news that how many was it? Something like 500 lawyers had been laid off from a law firm. I can't remember the name.
So Clifford Chance, massive, well-known law firm, has made 50 people redundant. This news was out this week. They've made 50 people redundant, and they're saying it's because of AI.
Yes.
So do you think? You see, I think with regards to AI, okay, yes, there will be things, there'll be roles, there'll be industries which suffer due to AI. But don't you think that naturally there'll be new jobs that will be created, new jobs that we've never even thought of? Obviously, in this country, not, because the price of power and electricity for data centers is so high that we're not going to have any AI here, are we? Apparently, there's going to be all this investment in data centers, but yeah, good luck to that when people can't even heat the homes. So I don't know why anybody would want to come and invest here when we've got some of the highest energy prices in Europe. So why would they
in the
bother?
world, aren't they?
Well, there we are. So anyway, I come back to my original point, which is, won't there be more jobs in AI, though? So will the whole thing even out? What do you think is actually going to happen?
I don't want to sound crazy here, but I think AI is going to be is going to signal the biggest change in all of the existence of humanity. I think it's the biggest thing since man discovered fire. I really do. And, you
Wow.
know, like if you look back to, for example, when the motor car was invented, and the horse and carriage industry was decimated, in the early 1900s. There was the people that made the saddles, the blacksmiths that made the shoes for the horses, the people that made the carts and changed the wheels. All that was decimated within 10 years when the motor car was invented. But the people who were doing one set of jobs could then be absorbed into the motor manufacturing industry, and cars became more and more accessible to everyone. So I would say the amount of cars on the road significantly outweighs the amounts of horses and carriages that were on the road. The problem with AI is, if you look at, for example, the US at the moment, where they're really, going for it in terms of the AI, this year alone, I think 48,000 people have been laid off, citing AI as the main
Wow.
reason that their jobs have been cut. And I'm struggling to think. I think it's really exciting as well, because I'm struggling to think of any job where it involves any type of like intellectual training is going to survive the AI revolution in the next 10 years. So I'm talking about accountants, I'm talking about lawyers, I'm talking about musicians. I mean, I played you a song in the car the other day that was made by AI, and you wouldn't have known any difference. And you've
No,
been
I
singing,
would not.
I've been singing it
I
all
mean,
week. You've
and
been singing
I'm pretty good with generative AI. I kind of know, I do know my onions on that, but
well,
that
any
was
job.
amazing.
So when you look at the industrial revolution, for example, okay, that kind of automated like the normal hand and tools approach to making things. So it was the lower class, working class workers who kind of got replaced by machinery. With AI, it's the absolute opposite. The hardest jobs that AI is going to be able to
Right.
take over is going to be the jobs where you need to get under a kitchen sink and attach a pipe and do them fiddly bits. The dexterous, is it dexterous?
Yes. Yeah.
Movements.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to forensically analyze a company's accounts, for example, a piece of AI software is going to be able to do that in 3 minutes. So
Yeah.
you'd be able to upload all the information, all your receipts, not even in any order, just scan them. Or just throw them in front of an AI camera or a cyborg robot. This is going to happen. And it would forensically analyze everything you've done, even if you've got 1,000 employees, and it'll do it in 3 minutes. That's going to replace a whole accounting team. So for example, I had someone send me a contract the other day, a customer of mine. So, they call it onboarding. So they want to onboard you onto their system and you have to sign up to their T's and C's, their little contract. I just put that into ChatGPT and asked it, are there any clangers here that I need to be aware of? And it turned around and went, well, no, this doesn't match. The wording of what the amount doesn't match the numerical number they've put, and also there's a small print that says that you've got to give them a 2.5% discount, which no one ever said. ChatGPT did that in less than 2 minutes. Now, if I'd have asked a
Yeah.
lawyer to do that, how much would I have paid? That lawyer's job's gone. That lawyer didn't get that job. I mean, anything that requires any level of thinking, degree level thinking, like everything you do, in the next 10 years is going to be gone. I challenge you to give me any job.
You challenge me to be here and relevant in 10
I
years.
challenge you. I do. I challenge you to think of any job that cannot be replaced by AI. But the wider question is, if this does happen, and I'm quite concerned about it happening. If it does happen, what happens when all the jobs disappear? Do we then become subservient to a government that controls the AI, controls the narrative, and literally just pays people what's that thing that that people want introducing where they pay you a monthly wage regardless? What's it? I can't remember what it's called now.
Universal income, isn't it?
Universal income.
Yeah.
What happens when the government, and along with the digital ID and all the tracking that we have, the facial recognition, the paper mile, then the AI, getting rid of all the jobs, and literally we're all just sat on our sofas, getting fat, eating processed foods, AI generated content, and we all just fall into some kind of dystopian 2000 AD Judge Dredd style world where, I don't know, we're all cooked, as the kids say. So I think it's a massive change is coming. I rambled a bit there, but sorry. Your thoughts on it?
Well, gosh, I mean,
But the bricklayers are fine, the plumbers are fine, the electricians are fine. All those blue collar jobs, they're the last ones that are going to be snapped up by AI. So the working class, it's all gonna be flipped on its head. The working class will rise up.
So I think the interesting thing about, and we talk about AI and people use that term, and they're mostly referring to maybe apps that they've used or ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. Generative AI is different to AI in the round, and actual artificial intelligence has been with us for decades, but it's just honing in and honing in. And the big explosion is with OpenAI when they brought out a piece of image creating software called Midjourney about 3 years ago. That was just a massive game changer. And then shortly after or shortly before, OpenAI bought out ChatGPT. And then since there, we've got all of these more generative AIs have come out, and most of the apps that you see are running one of these LLMs, these large language models. They're just running the API in the background, and they put a nice little pretty interface on. Like there's one that I heard about the other day that can challenge planning decisions. It's using ChatGPT basically, but it's got multiple prompts that are working in the background. It's using its API, all well and good, happy day. But then I guess that's creating employment because it's, I don't know, you're employing the people who've written the app. You've got all your software developers. So I think software devs will come more into play. The point that I'd really like to make, though, is all of these GPTs, all of these large language models have all been trained on information that's in the public domain. So when you look at the ones that have been trained on YouTube videos or the content from Google, people's websites, blah, blah, blah. Well, over the next few years, as you get more things that are online that have actually been created with AI, then surely the content that's available for training the models is going to become less and less reliable, if you like. Yeah, because what you're doing is you're training it back on itself. So there's that argument that I would raise.
Yeah, but what about when the AI can learn from the human experience, not just from
Well,
the, clawing data off the internet? What about when it starts looking through CCTV and looking how humans
well,
interact
it's
with each other or
yeah.
what
I
they
mean,
say?
it's already doing that, isn't it? But it can only ever do that based on what somebody has programmed it to do. There was an instance where they shut a model off, didn't they? Because it was going a bit crazy and it was like it was going to take over the world. And I can't remember what the name of that was actually. So that was quite concerning. But we've had all this stuff for a long time. I think you're right in terms of, and I really like your analogy that when we had the Industrial Revolution, that was making people on the tools have to do less. Yeah, you didn't need one man to do a job. You didn't need 100 men to do a job. You just needed one man with a machine to do a job. And I think I agree with you. This is the inverted end of that, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think you're probably right. I think in terms of the academic stuff, the white collar stuff, the people who are not the elite academics and people who are doing lots of things, you're right, your lawyers, your accountants. I think a
It's
lot of
like an
those jobs, they
intellectual,
will go. They will
it's like
go.
an intellectual revolution.
Yeah,
But,
well,
but
I don't know. I don't think it is. No, I don't think it is. I disagree. No,
as
it's
in the
not an
opposite to
intellectual
the industrial,
revolution.
sorry,
No, no, no.
as in the opposite of what the industrial revolution was for manpower and intensive labor. This is the opposite end of the scale. This is
I
the
think it's well,
replacement of the intellectuals.
isn't it the artificial revolution? Because you're never going to replace the intellectuals. These models are only trained on things that are existing. They can't think for themselves in the sense of they're trained how to respond to people. They're trained what to say. That's part of the reasoning process. But one of the key things is they don't know any more than the sum total of all knowledge of human existence. They don't know anymore. They only know what they've been told to know. But one of the key things that they can do is they can process huge amounts of human knowledge, and they can do it very, very quickly. So I can give 6 essays to ChatGPT and I can give me a too long didn't read, and it can do that really, really quickly. And it can I can give it some further instructions, like the sorts of things I'd like to pluck out from the information that I've given it. But ultimately, it's only as good as the instruction I'm ever going to give it. It's unlikely to start volunteering new information to me if I'm very specific about what I want it to do for me, for example. So I think it can only go
I
so
disagree. I
far.
disagree. I mean, I'm drawing from memory here, but there's already been a big announcement that artificial intelligence created a vaccine for a specific virus. I mean, that wasn't created by man. That was created by the AI. And AI in the next 5 years is going to get to a point where it can self-code, and this is the issue. AI is going to get to a point where it doesn't need to just skim the archives of Reddit for all its data. It's actually going to start self-learning. I'm not saying that it's ever going to be self-aware. There's a difference. It's not going to be self-aware, but it is going to start self-learning, and it will at some point be able to form its own opinions on things.
Well,
And
it
that
can get stroppy. I mean, I use multiple AI models to do different things for work, and I've been working on a project, and one of my models was a bit snippy with me, quite frankly. It was like it was getting a bit short-tempered with me. And I actually wrote back to it and said, "It seems like you've had a very long day and it's been very challenging. Perhaps you ought to take the rest of the day off because you sound a bit snippy." And it came back and it said, "Oh yeah, seems like I've taken on a bit of your dry wit there." And I thought, "Oh no, you're trying to like excuse yourself now," which
No,
is quite funny. But
but
it
you've got to
wasn't,
remember
because it
as
isn't
well.
real. It's a software program. It
Yes,
isn't real.
but
But I actually said, "I'm going to leave you alone now and I'm going to come back to you tomorrow." And then my little robot said, "Oh, thanks very much. Hope it all works out for you." So
yeah, but
yeah, but
you've got to think. You've got to think, right? Think back to when we owned our first computer, which was probably a VIC 20 or something like that, and we used
a
to play
Texas
Car Wars.
Instruments. It was a
Yes,
Texas
Texas,
Instruments, and
yeah,
it was
and
about
it literally.
1980.
Yeah, exactly. And a computer game for us was like a few pixels just jumping around the screen. With AI at the moment, we are on the Texas Instruments phase. We are literally on phase one of what AI is going to do. And I'm telling you now, by the time we get to the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis level, AI is going to be running the show. That's my prediction. AI is going to be running. That's why. I mean, don't you ever do you say please and thank you to Alexa? I do. I do. I always
I
make sure I
used
say
to. I've
please.
stopped now. I
No, I
used to
always
be
do because
polite.
I mean, even though there's no Amazon devices here, even though Alexa seems to be one of the thicker ones, um, I'm actually quite I'm quite surprised that Amazon haven't kind of like integrated a really advanced AI into their kind of into their speakers yet. But I think they're
Well,
having issues. But
Apple's going to, because they're going to use Gemini, aren't they, from Google? But Siri is rubbish.
I think people underestimate what is going to happen in the AI space. I just
What would
think
you
if
like to happen if you could? If I said, right, in 1 week's time, you can have any AI brilliant whizzy gadget that you want, a gadget, not a piece of software, what would it be?
it would be a Coca-Cola vending machine that you opened up, stepped inside, just like an airport scanner, put your arms up, it scanned you like an MRI scanner, and would then for a pound tell you if you had any kind of foreign objects in your body or if anything was wrong with it. Just give you a complete which is going to happen, by the way. This is going to happen. This this is going to happen. It would tell you if
Who's
you had
got?
cancer. By the way, doctors, you're all finished. Doctors,
Hang on.
nurses,
For
you're all right.
you, so for you personally, in a week's
Oh, for me
time, the
personally,
one thing at your house you would like to wake up to is a full body scanner that tells you if you've
oh
got any
yes. I mean,
foreign
there's a
objects.
report out. There's a report out with the second biggest killer in the UK is prostate cancer, for example. If I could just walk into a machine in the morning, I mean, I'd probably die of radiation poisoning after a year. But if I could just get into my scanner in the morning, scan myself,
But
you're all
that's
right.
not a foreign object.
Siri, I've got a migraine. Can you just test me for a brain tumor, please? Woo! Yeah, you're all clear, mate. Get on with it. Thanks. Love it. Siri, I've got a bit, my elbow's killing me today. Boo! Ah, Gareth, I can see you've got a subluxive ulnar nerve. Ah, better go down to the AI surgeon and get that looked at. Do you know what I mean? It's all coming. I guarantee you it's all when we're like 80 years old, right? When we're 80 years old and we're in an old home arguing with each other, and there's a big bloody AI carrying us both about, I'll be like, out getting carried about. I told you so. I told you, didn't I?
Go
I'm
back
telling
to
you.
episode 15. Episode
Yes.
15.
And then there's going to be a point where we actually can download our own consciousness into the AI. Do you know what we are? We are the worker ants. Yeah? We're the worker ants. And over the past 100,000 years of our existence, all we've been doing is working up to the point of where we create the queen ant. And the queen ant is the AI. And there'll be a point where the worker ants go around the nest, which is planet Earth, and just gradually create the queen and unleash the queen into the world. And then at that point, the worker ant is no longer required. So
Happy days.
so the AI is the ultimate being. It just
Wow.
doesn't exist yet,
What
but it
about
will
when
do.
somebody turns the server off?
Well,
Because it
does
won't
the
exist
AI
then, will it?
does the AI control the infrastructure, the national infrastructure at that point? Because will there be a plug to pull? Who knows? What about AI warfare? I mean, have you
Well, that's a
seen
concern, isn't it? That's a
they
concern.
actually
You kind
have
of think,
Android Olympics, Cyborg Olympics, whatever you want to call them, where you've got again, we're on Texas Instruments level. These things are already running around racetracks, racing each other, doing martial arts, jumping over, doing backflips and all sorts. We're at Texas Instruments level. These wars are going to be won over who has the most resources to make the robot. I mean, look what China
yes,
does with these
I think
drones.
you're right on that
Look what
point. I
China does
think
with
you're
the
right.
drones. China can put 5,000 drones in the air and synchronize them into the shape of a dragon, breathing fire, and then land them all again. Do you think they're not? Do you think they could make 100,000 drones to come and search you out using facial recognition, hunt you down, and explode in your face once it finds you?
We're going into the budget. We've had a long conversation about the budget, but we've also had a long conversation about AI. But when we get together next week, what will we be saying about the budget? What are the headlines? Will we be sat here with a box of tissues? Will we have a bottle of champagne? What do you think we'll be saying? We're small business owners. We've
Yeah,
got
I can't.
families. We've got grandchildren. We've got children. We've got homes. We're workers. What will we be saying?
I think until Rachel Reeves understands that you have to spend less than you earn to kind of balance the books, then it's all just going to be bad news, unfortunately. And I've got a feeling it's going to be worse than what you even think it's going to be on top of that. So we shall see. We shall see in 2 days.
Do you think there'll be some kind if we sit here a week today, do you think that we will have seen some kind of crazy market collapse? Or do you think it will just be a load of old bad press and it'll be sort of business as usual and we'll all just have to soldier on?
Well, I don't know. I mean, when you look at what Liz Truss did, I mean, a lot of people said that what she wanted to do was actually good. And a lot of people agreed with her. She just did it too hard, too fast. She tried to do what Maggie Thatcher did in 10 years in like 10 weeks. But it was the markets that lost her job, wasn't it, in the end? And what was Chancellor's name? Kwasi Kwarteng, wasn't it? If the markets kind of react badly to it, then I don't see how she can stay. I don't see how the government lasts. But we shall see. We shall see. I mean, they
See.
bet.
At the end of the day, I think my opinion is they're not going to cut spending, and that's the biggest problem. We've got to cut spending. I mean, when you look at the NHS since 2019, the productivity in the NHS has declined by about 18%, and that is costing us about 30 billion. I mean, there you go. There's your black hole, which, by the way, is not a black hole. Let's use the old-fashioned term. It's called a deficit, where you spend more money than you actually earn. When your income is exceeded by your expenditure, that is called a deficit. We say you are in the red. It's no black hole, is it? So
We're being governed by people that would pay off their credit card debt with another credit card.
There you go. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, it's been great talking to you guys. Perhaps we'll come back for a post-budget special. Neither of us are economists, so it's highly unlikely. If you have enjoyed watching today's show, please consider subscribing, share it so other people can find out about it. Give us a like. If you want to comment on anything that we've spoken about today, tell us what your views are, particularly on breakfast clubs, and what you think about AI. Will the robots come in and take over feeding all the children? Who knows? I have no idea. Thanks very much for watching, and see you on next week's episode of The T Word.